Okay, so another technique is called a wash, and that is when you have an area of just a flat, very even coat of color. And so in order to do that, I first have to make sure that I prepare enough paint. So here's my palette. I'm going to use, this is going to be a purple wash, and so I'm going to make sure I take enough paint and I put it on this palette. Notice how much I have so that I can really saturate my brush. My brush is full and saturated with paint. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper, I'm going to angle it up, and I'm going to paint with one very smooth, consistent brush stroke. Notice how there's a little bit of paint that is pooling at the bottom. We want that. And now I'm just going to kind of take that extra paint and almost just draw it down the surface of my paper. And I'm using gravity to help that paint just flow. And so now if you notice, there's a little bit of extra paint here. So what I am going to do is I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to soak up that extra paint. Okay, and so that I'm using my brush as a little bit of a sponge. And so that brush can take up any extra paint that you have. And so that is how you create a wash. Now sometimes you want to have something called a graded wash. And this graded wash is where we start really dark, or start darker, and then it slowly fades to light. And so we're going to start the same way. I have my paint that's already prepared here. I'm going to add a little bit more water. I'm going to soak up that brush nice and saturated so that I have enough paint on my brush. So I don't want to stop once I start my graded wash and then go back and get more paint. So I'm going to start by, again, that one line of color. Then I'm going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to dry it. I'm going to just put, this is just plain water, and I'm going to use that water. I'm going to dry out my brush a bit, and I'm going to use that water to draw down and almost like fade out that paint. And so we get a very soft transition from darker to lighter. Anywhere you have too much paint, and if it's not even, you can take that dried brush and you can just soak up any extra paint. Okay? And that's what we call a graded wash. Now, sometimes you accidentally put color where you don't want it to go. So let's say that I want to get rid of this dark purple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some clean water. I'm going to flood that area with water. Then I'm going to take a clean brush and I'm just going to scrub it. What I'm doing is I'm redissolving the paint that's on the paper. Then I'm going to take an old paper towel. I have to find a relatively clean part. And then I'm going to soak it up. And while this purple has dried a little bit on the paper, if you act quickly enough, you can completely take up any paint that you put down. Okay? All right.